Hello and welcome to VOV Sports. My name is Sunny.
What's up, y'all? It's Sebastian.
And it's Zach. Nice to meet you all.
How about those Owls?
Yes, sir.
Elite Eight. How about
Elite
it?
Eight.
Going against Kansas State in the Elite Eight. Unreal. Never made the tournament before, and here we are in the Elite Eight.
March Madness. March Madness.
Yeah,
It is madness. Unreal for a school that's never been known for basketball, but here we are in the Elite Eight with a crazy matchup against Kansas State too.
Yeah, and that game's in a couple hours too. Sheesh.
So did you guys watch that last game? Because I watched.
Yeah.
I actually went. I went to a watch party, and I watched it at the Irishman in Boca. The atmosphere was so crazy like the entire time, and they were losing, and then towards like the middle of the second half, they started just turning it up. They started getting it together, started hitting threes, started playing better perimeter defense, and they took the game and they got the upset.
The one against Tennessee, right?
Yeah, the one against Tennessee.
Yeah, crazy game. That's one that was like, all right, we're gonna see how FNU really is now because they played some pretty good schools the first two games, but this was against a team in the SEC, so it was much bigger challenge than what they're usually used to facing. So that was huge. But yeah, they did score. I can see they scored 20. It was 22-27 at half, and then they just completely turned up. Scored 40 in the second half. Unbelievable.
That man Forrest was going off too. He hit those back-to-back threes. That's kind of like when I was, I guess to me at least, when I was watching it and I saw Forrest hit those 2 threes in back-to-back possessions. I feel like that's pretty much when the momentum swung, FAU's way, and they just started shooting lights out. It was impressive. I can't lie, especially against, like Zach said, an SEC team. That's a real challenge, and I mean today it's only going to get harder. So yeah, today's a lot to look forward to. Hopefully we can come out the same way, but it was definitely a game to remember.
Today they got Kansas State, right?
Yeah,
yes, sir.
so Kansas State they got some dogs on that team. Some dogs. I mean, if you look at the point guard, he is literally 5'7", 5'8", maybe. He's really short, but he's really, really good. Has an insane shot. Knows how to drive the ball and pass the ball. He's got heart.
He
got that. Like if you take his X-ray, you'll see he got that dog in him.
Who is it? Noel, right? Yeah, Noel.
Yeah, and then they have Keontae Johnson, shooting guard or small forward. I forget which one, but he's playing lights out. He came from UF. For people who know, 2 years ago he collapsed on the court in UF, kind of like Erickson in soccer.
Yeah,
where he just literally just collapsed on the court, and he finally got cleared to play like this year, pretty much. So he had a transfer, and now he's in the Elite Eight. So what a story that is, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this whole tournament's been crazy. I mean, I think we were talking about it earlier during our pre-chat, and we were talking about it. There's no number 1 seeds left.
Shout out Miami.
No 1 seeds left.
Took out Houston.
Miami's in there too, man. Florida. Those Florida teams. Those Florida teams are in there.
Florida in general. They got some crazy competition though. I mean, Miami has to play Texas next. That's going to be a hard game to finish, but Miami can score.
Even the women's I want to say the University of Miami women's team, they're also in there. And they're also like dogs. Like no one kind of expects them to win.
How about the twin dogs? You see the one twin? You know they have twins in Miami. It's the two twins,
I saw
the blonde girls.
I saw that, yeah.
Blonde girls.
Oh, and the girls team? No way.
Yeah, and one of them, she's a stud. They were down, or no, I'm sorry, they were up by 2 points and they got fouled. She hits a free throw and goes.
That's crazy.
To the whole crowd, and that was crazy. I think that was number 1 Stanford too. So it was like a huge upset.
Damn.
Haley and Hannah Cavender. That's interesting. I didn't know about them. Definitely gonna keep my eye on them now. And they can ball?
They can ball. I forget which one is the one that's starting or was playing majority of the game, or the one who hit the free throw. But they're both really good.
Nice. Shout out Miami, man. Girls and guys making it this far, still dancing.
How do you guys think the NIL deals affect how the tournament is? because I know like because like Texas, for example, I don't know if they're like always good at basketball, but in football, like they got like a bunch of people out there like linemen. That it helps them recruit people to fucking play the game. Coaches hate it, but it helps teams, like it helps because Alabama, because now like you have kids in Alabama, right? Alabama can't just get every 5-star. Some 5 stars are like, I'll take like a $1.5 million deal or a $2 million deal to do this or that. So I was gonna ask you guys like if you guys know about that, like how that would change or impact the tournament.
One thing that kind of like I guess sticks out for me with the NIL like deals and stuff is that you're gonna have high schoolers who are they're gonna start drifting their energy towards like powerhouse sports programs to like maximize those NIL deals, which is like things that smaller schools won't be able to do. So is it gonna keep those top level schools at the very top and even more create more of a separation between them and those like I guess not as big schools, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the other thing with that is when it comes to NIL deals and college sports in general, you're seeing a time now where so much more of it is if the players don't like it, if the players don't like their current situation, they go to the transfer portal, or they leave, and it's that fluidity in college basketball, college football, college sports isn't something that we've really seen in a lot of time, mostly because the players themselves, they're not employees, they're students.
Yeah.
So when you don't have a union and when you don't have any capability to make any money, even though I think they're one of the biggest examples of people who produce and generate so much wealth that they never see. Like you could tell me that they get free tuition. You could get a 1120 or something on the SAT, 1200 on the SAT. You get the same thing. So when it comes and the wealth that you're producing for people, you're never seeing. And I think that's something that you see like the NCAA, like the video games. It's something you see in everything that we've kind of come from college sports. It's led up to these NIL deals, to the transfer portal being how it is. And the scary part is with the NIL deals, in my opinion, I was watching Gilbert Arenas on his show, and he was talking about it, is you're so young, and a lot of those kids that are making that much money have never seen that much money.
For sure.
And you have a lot of adults, a lot of opportunists, in a system that preys on people who don't know, preys on naivety, preys on things like that. You have a system where these kids, man, they're gonna come into a lot of money, and they don't really know not just how to manage it, but what to do. Like how do I go about my business? How do I go about, and it's such a crazy question to ask like an 18, 19-year-old. Like when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you're thinking about having fun. You're thinking about, going out partying, getting girl. Like you're not thinking about investments and your parents, like things like that. So I think when it comes to this NIL deal situation, it's a lot more big and more complex than people try to just they're just giving. I think it's good though. I think then like coaches complain about it. They're like, these kids and they're making it about money and blah blah blah, and they're transferring if they don't like it. It's a business. It's a business.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
And that's what the thing is when you have these things that are about business and about making money, and you strip the fun of it away, you strip the passion of it away.
Yeah, money is all it becomes about.
Yeah, and you turn it into just like this thing where it's just about money. You're gonna have a lot of negative situations and a lot of situations where people feel like they're in like meaningless games. Like we're probably gonna talk about this later in the episode, but when it comes to the tournaments or what do you guys think of bowl games, for example, or games that aren't like there's a star player. Say there's like a projected first round, second round, third round pick, and he's on a team that's not in the college football playoff. Even if he is in the college football playoff, but he's not. He's a projected, again. He's projected a lot of money, and he's playing in a game that's essentially meaningless because his draft status is pretty cemented. What do you guys think about players opting out of those predicaments and instead opting to just train for the draft or the combine or the NFL?
Right. In a way, I feel like it's got the same feel as like a Pro Bowl game or like a All-Star game where, they just don't want to put in that sort of effort to
Yep.
It doesn't matter to them how the school does, I guess. It's more about them and like, all right, I don't want to get injured. I know I'm going to be high in the draft. So why would I risk that? And that's what it seems like. It's becoming more like a trend each year, and not just with college football, but with like every sport, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Seb?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it really depends on the player as well, but and the game that's in front of them. I mean, the meaning, how meaningful is the game? If it is the CFP, the college football playoffs, and if it is like the semis or the championship game, that's where you really want to think. Maybe the player's thinking a little more into it versus just like a bowl game, and where there's not a lot on the line.
It's more for
It really
fun.
depends on the player mostly.
I think most of that conversation happens though is when, the coverage of the sport, the promotion of the sport, and the overall business way of it, right? So like, sports is something that we consume, it's something that we're entertained by, it's something that's fun for us. But for a lot of these players, they grow up and they love playing these games, they love playing this sport. They're very passionate about the game. And I think that when you go into things like Z, you were talking about how you go into different sports and something that's happening across different sports, where you see the top players not wanting to participate in the All-Star game. You see the top players not necessarily wanting to, or the top projected players in the draft not wanting to play in bowl games. I think it's something that's a trend where you have athletes who know that their bodies and this is something that's going to make them money. This is something it's about business. It's not about playing a game. It's about making money. How they make money is by playing the game. So they're prioritizing their health themselves, because at the end of the day, like, say for example, if a player goes into a bowl game, that's not really like anything. He tears his ACL. He's a projected first round, second round pick. Now he's a fourth round pick. Now he has to recover. Now he has to do like it's a bunch of added animosity. And of course, everyone loves watching the best players play the game. Everybody loves seeing passion on the field. They love seeing sports. That's why we all watch sports, is to have fun, to be entertained. But when you have these conversations, I think it's important to cement that it is a business. And when the players when they take business into their own hands, it's often seen as selfish, as not the right move. But when owners draft you in the fourth round because of injury concerns, it's legit. When owners take moves that are business moves, it's not necessarily seen in the same light. And I think it's very unfair to have like these conversations without seeing like how the team like interprets business and how the player interprets business. So
yeah, because it's two different perspectives for sure. I mean, we can transition even from this to Lamar Jackson and his deal and why he didn't play in the playoffs. I know he was injured last year, but you had a bunch of people saying like, wow, the Ravens are in a really good spot to make a run for this. Why isn't Lamar Jackson playing? And it's like, no, it's a business. He's trying to take care of himself. And
I think to your point, like what people were saying was people were saying Lamar shouldn't play the season. He shouldn't even start in the season. And he started off red hot. I think he had like a crazy amount of touchdowns the first like month and a half of the season. Mm-hmm. And then he started getting dinged up and things like that. But I think it's also important to note where with his contract situation that he got the non-exclusive tag on him. So it's 2 first-round picks and then the fully guaranteed contract. But but to the point of him not playing the playoff game, a lot of players critiqued him for that too. They were like, oh, you should suit up, you should get ready to go in there, and you should those are your brothers out there. And I think that's part of how the NFL coverage is that it's very emotional and the game is very emotional. So people don't really like it's hard to separate the business side from the sports side. And to touch on like Lamar's contract situation specifically, I think it's a great thing that he didn't play. Because imagine he got hurt. He can't get the deal he wants right now. Imagine he got hurt.
Yeah, no.
Where would he be?
The whole thing about his contract wouldn't even be this kind of situation right now, especially if he got hurt. It would just literally be. He wouldn't probably have not even got the exclusive franchise tag. He probably just would have got the regular one, and nobody would be able to offer him things or trade for him because nobody would want to do that. Especially he has missed a lot of games over the past couple of years, but he's an MVP quality player, and he knows that himself. And I guess he just made the best decision for himself. He didn't take any more damage or injuries, and now he's in a spot where he has a little bit of leverage
Yeah,
to,
exactly.
like, with all these like different NFL teams. I mean, the Ravens are kind of treating them like garbage.
Because it's a business
Yeah.
too, you know, it's a business too, and I think with Lamar's situation specifically, is he wants a fully guaranteed probably 200 plus mil contract, and I actually I saw like I want to say it was a tweet or an article earlier today, I forget, I'm probably gonna cite them later, but the tweet was basically about how Lamar is going for a fully guaranteed contract. So Kirk Cousins went, I don't know if you guys remember, but he got like a $35 million fully guaranteed deal per year. I want to say it was a 3-year deal, fully guaranteed.
Oh yeah,
30,
the
35
Jets
mil per year.
the Jets almost gave him that contract. So
Yeah, and, and then he got it from the Vikings. And then what happened was I want to say Patrick Mahomes' contract came up, and he got like the optics of it. And this is something where the NFL media, like, they promote the NFL, so they don't really give you the whole details about the contract. I want to say he got like nearly half a billion, but his contract only had like 100 mil guaranteed.
Mhm.
So the rest of his contract was like a lot different. And then I want to say Josh Allen's contract was also something similar, where he took way less fully guaranteed money, and that's something that's an NFLPA like labor dispute with the NFL, is that, you know, we want fully guaranteed contracts instead of this, you know, kind of like, say you sign like a $250 million deal, only 100 mil is guaranteed. The other money is incentive based. So, and in a sport that is so volatile and so you never really know, an injury can happen at any time. So there's so many different factors that go into this. You know, these players, the owners at the end of the day, they're going to protect themselves. The players don't really have any mechanisms to protect themselves besides the free market. And that's another
Yeah.
aspect of this Lamar contract situation that I wanted to get into, was that you have a situation with Lamar where Deshaun Watson, Mr. 27 allegation man,
I was just gonna say, can we just go ahead and blame the Browns for this entire mess? Because
26 allegations.
what were they doing offering that contract to someone with so much off-field problems and
Exactly.
so many, like, and I wouldn't say he had on-field problems, but, you know,
He didn't play for a year because of the off-field problems.
Exactly, because of the off-field problems that kind of transitioned into the on-field stuff. So it was just like, now you got Lamar Jackson who's trying to get the same thing, but he doesn't have any of this off-field problem.
In a sport, mind you, like in the NBA, it's kind of different. The situation with John Moran is kind of its own thing. That's probably the one big thing that you could cite in terms of off-the-field issues or off-the-court issues. In the NFL, the media makes such a big deal in the coverage of the sport about off the field things, about things, anything that they could find that they could, you know, kind of put on the players is like, oh, he's a distraction to the team or something. Deshaun Watson missed a year of playing in the NFL because of the allegations, because he could have been criminally charged for sexually harassing, I want to say 26 or 27 women.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the biggest red flags off the field issues you could find.
Right.
And they gave him a $235 million fully guaranteed contract. And now here's Lamar going for his contract, right, with no off the field baggage, with an MVP, with a 45-16 record, with Deshaun Watson had DeAndre Hopkins on the Texans. Lamar Jackson has Costco employees and a good tight end. That's it. They get like they're get and it's neglect because they give money to the defensive players. They pay CJ. They pay. I want to say they paid a lot of money to get not CJ Mosley. They let him go. The linebacker from the Bears. They gave him a 2nd round pick and then they signed him to a $100 million extension.
Roquan Smith.
Yeah. So and I know you know, there's Ravens fans are all like the offensive scheme and people don't want to go there. Blah blah blah. But my point being is that Lamar's contract is one where that's your best player. That's the best quarterback Baltimore has ever had. He's young. He's 26. He's a former MVP. Again, he has a 45-16 record. And you just saw the market get set last year by Deshaun Watson, who didn't play for a year, getting a fully guaranteed $235 million deal. Lamar is fully justified for demanding $250 fully guaranteed.
And I totally agree, but now it's like the owners and they're like trying to back away from that now, you know, so it's such a weird situation where it's like, he deserves all this money, especially based on what the other guy got and what he's done on the field and
Exactly.
off the field. So it's like, it's just so weird. But go ahead,
Yeah,
Seb. I think I cut
do
you
y'all
off.
think? I just have a question. Do y'all think that him not having an agent affects any of this stuff? I mean, again, he's going directly to these owners, to these GMs. It's no one's speaking for him. I mean, and to my
I
eyes,
think
I
he has a
feel like
management team.
yeah,
I'm
but
not too
again,
sure, but
he has no agent. That's for sure. He says it himself. He doesn't
Yeah.
have an agent.
I think he represents himself kind of like Laramie Tunzel did. The thing about, I mean, with Laramie Tunzel, he's on his third contract now. He's been doing really well representing himself, but it's a totally different market for a left tackle and a quarterback. I mean,
right.
Lamar's trying to represent himself to get this $250 million fully guaranteed contract, which is damn near impossible to do right now with how the owners are and what the contracts are looking like. And it's that's kind of why it's just turning into a mess. So we just kind of got to wait and see what they do. I mean, is a team going to offer Lamar a crazy contract and give up 2 first-round picks at the same time? That's very hard for a team to do.
no, but that's also, I would say, like this whole situation is also a critique of the principle that we live in, like this free market economy. Because there's people who run who control the quote unquote free market, and in the NFL, you see it on a micro level, like here with the NFL, where the owners are just like, we're not gonna give them fully guaranteed. That's something that we didn't want in the NFLPA CBA. That's something that we do not want to give players. We don't want to give them more money. We don't want to give them fully guaranteed deals because they also understand how dangerous the sport is, how volatile the sport is, how everything can change in one play, and they don't want to give the players that security. So what are the players able? So what are the owners able to do? They're able to be like, all right, even though Lamar's market value, fair market value, could be a consensus, at least I'm pretty sure between the three of us, and I'm sure Lamar Jackson thinks himself that he's worth more than 235 mil guaranteed that Deshaun Watson got, if not at least the same, right?
Definitely,
yeah,
it should be
100%.
in that. It should be in that ballpark.
But no, what I was saying is like the amount of money that Deshaun Watson got is so unreal. It's never happened before. And for him to, go and sign that contract, come play for the Browns after all that stuff happened and not even be that great that's what makes it like, if I'm an NFL owner, I'm like, dude, I would love Lamar Jackson, but what if this happens? What if this happens?
But exactly. But that's the thing is and the owners are going to do everything in their power to kind of, not be able to do that. And I think the thing with the quarterbacks and I think with the NFL players in general is because this is a labor dispute, I would say, in my opinion, the NFL players are laborers. They're the ones who generate and create the value for the NFL. I think the situation with them is, and these players specifically, is that Lamar, like we touched on it a little bit earlier. Lamar has to now. Well, Deshaun set the market last year, but Lamar has way more market value than Deshaun Watson does. So now he has to set the market in a way that's kind of like four other quarterbacks. The thing with that though, and that's the thing is like a lot of, I would say, like you don't see a lot of solidarity among NFL players to the same extent that you see them in the NBA. And I think that shows, like with the NBA, with the CBA that the NBA has, and the CBA that the NFL PA was able to negotiate, and that like consensusly, if that's a word, the NFLPA is not one of the strongest labor unions that there is. The NBA PA is one of the strongest, if not the strongest in professional sports in America, at least. And I think that's something that shows out because you have contracts like Josh Allen's, which is for his market value, very team friendly. You have contracts like Patrick Mahomes, again, for his market value, just won another Super Bowl, very team friendly. There's no demand to kind of get paid more. And I think those players did not help Lamar in any way with his contract situation, because now you see that because owners are gonna, and that's what happens when players take the hometown discount or they don't get paid their value. The problem isn't necessarily with that player. The problem is that the market that creates for other players of similar or less talent or slightly less talent, because now they're going to get paid the same as them because the owners are going to come to them and be like, hey, he took this deal, so we can't pay you more than him because your stats don't match up with his. So that's the thing with this market thing is there's so many mechanisms for the owners to kind of be like, yeah, man, we're just not gonna pay you that much. Like if the owners collude and be like, hey, we have to change the market, then they're gonna change the market. The only thing that makes a free market is if the commodity is like actually competed for, like the services are competed for. And again, like anything, there's no competition. If the owners are colluding that we're not gonna pay this much for a certain player, then they're not gonna do it. And there's no mechanisms for the players to really do anything unless the players strike, and that's why you have a CBA for, and then they can't strike. So it's a very complex situation, especially and it shouldn't be that complex. Like, I mean, again, your heart goes out to Lamar. He should be getting it. He's being unfairly treated, and that's another thing, is that just kind of showing like I want to say comparisons to the NBA. If an NBA team disrespected someone on like the Lamar Jackson equivalent in the NBA, that player would leave. That player has every capability, every ability to be like, I'm not playing here. I don't want to be here. I'm gonna leave.
And they have to trade.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's something that I think NFL players should try to strive and do more work to kind of organize around.
It kind of seems like they're using this Lamar situation as almost like a trap to reset the market. Like, okay, is somebody gonna give him this money that he deserves, or is he gonna have to eventually, if he wants to play for some money, accept a contract that he probably should have got more from?
Exactly.
And now the QB market's reset. So
exactly, and that hinders the market for other quarterbacks. I think that the other thing is the wide receiver market too. Is that's something that people need to look out for, is because Jamar Chase has a contract coming up. T. Higgins, they're already talking about trading him. Justin Jefferson, I think I don't know if he signed an extension already, but he has a contract coming up.
No, so he's still on his rookie contract, 4 years, $13 million. So yeah, so he's obviously just,
that's another contract.
He's gonna get paid insanely. So within the next year, Justin Jefferson, so within the next like 2-3 years, the wide receiver market will completely probably explode. Because
Jamar, they're all gonna look for a bag.
Last year in free agency, wide receivers are getting paid left and right. You look at Christian Kirk,
Tyreek Hill. Look at
Tyreek Hill, who got a huge bag.
Waddle's gonna have to get paid too. So it's a lot of things with these players. But I want to transition from this to the Jets. You guys just traded one of your receivers to, I want to say, Cleveland. To Cleveland.
Elijah.
What did you guys, do you know the compensation and stuff?
So Elijah Moore, we traded him for their second round pick. We gave them our third round pick and Elijah Moore for their second round pick. So right now they hold the 13th pick, the 42nd and 43rd pick, which I'm assuming they're going to use to try and go ahead and get Aaron Rodgers and get that trade situation out. But yeah, we traded him to, which could be a good fit. Honestly, he didn't do too much with the Jets. He complained a lot about not getting the ball, blah, blah, blah. He requested a trade when we were on a win streak last year. So it was kind of best for both parties, it felt like. But yeah, he's a good player. I wish the best for him for sure. But, I think it was just time. We just brought in Nicole Hardman too, which is kind of a replacement for him in a way. He's much faster. And then
he came from the Chiefs, right, Zach?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Just won a championship. I think 1 year, $6.5 million.
Fresh off a bowl too. That's a good pickup.
Right. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. But if you're a Jets fan, what's most exciting is this whole Aaron Rodgers situation that's going on right now. That's what I was
going to get into, is as the resident Jets fan, how are you feeling?
Oh my God.
How are you doing?
I feel like I have the most anxiety on the planet right now about this whole situation. It's like I feel like it's gonna happen any day now, but also because I just don't know. Nobody knows right now where the Jets and the Packers stand with each other. And you even had Aaron Rodgers come out himself on Pat McAfee and say he wants to play for the Jets, and he even I don't know if you saw the whole thing where he texted
went on a darkness.
Adam Schefter. He went on a darkness
retreat.
He went on an Adam Schefter kind of rant thing where he texted him like, "Nice try, lose my number," because all those reporters
they're trying to get the sources, man.
Yeah, they're trying to get the sources. They want to be the first guy, blah blah blah, and Adam and Ian are the primary ones. So they're expecting all the news and everything to break from them, but you know, everything's been very like secretive, and so it's like kind of just hard to tell what's happening. But you should be excited definitely if you're a Jets fan. I think the Packers have no leverage, at least for now, especially if they want picks from us for this year. I mean, we got the draft coming up in like a month now. Yeah. So
I mean, I think the longer that they wait, I think the longer the Packers wait, it's just worse. Because you're hindering, first of all, you're hindering Jordan Love's, like, is it going to be my team? Is it not? And then Aaron Rodgers, really, you're in a situation where he's guaranteed 60 mil, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so guaranteed 60 mil. So you're going to have to pay him that 60 mil and get nothing for him. I mean, you guys are pretty much already set on starting Jordan Love. Your CEO came out and literally said, if all goes right, then Aaron Rodgers won't be our starter. So clearly they're both parted away from each other, and I think they both know that. It's just a matter of how they want to work this contract out and what they want to get in for this trade. I guess they're trying to get as much as they can. I'm assuming they want a first, but it's probably not happening.
I mean, I'm not sure what his market value is, because he had a down year. I mean, granted, he didn't have a lot of receivers, but he had a down year last year, and I know he's still Aaron Rodgers, and I know he was kind of hurt, banged up a little bit. But again, like when it comes to the market value,
the year before though.
No, yeah, exactly. Well, like we're talking about value here again, like for his trade value, right? Yeah. What you have a contract for a 35-plus-year-old quarterback who's guaranteed 60 mil. I mean, I just think like going into the negotiations, I'm not sure what the Packers kind of like. They don't want him, and I don't understand where that's happening. I think one of the best things that he did was, like you said, go on the Pat McAfee show, clarify that this is where I want to go, this is the situation, this is what's going on. I think that's really important when it comes to these situations, is because in the NFL especially, the players don't really have like a lot. Like when it comes to trades, it's not like the NBA where like in the NBA like, oh, I want to trade, and then within like a certain span of time they're traded. Yeah. In the NFL, like if a player requests a trade, it's like, it's not really taken seriously. Like Roquan Smith, he demanded a trade because he didn't like his contract negotiations with the Bears at the beginning of the season, and he got traded in the middle of the season. So it's one of those things where it takes a lot longer. But I think when it comes to players like Aaron Rodgers, players that are old with big money deals in the NFL that doesn't value age and doesn't value like paying people a lot of money, I'm not sure what the Packers are really, hoping to get out of this. I mean, you could get
it's hard to because I mean with the Jets at least, and their GM Joe Douglas, who's been very competent the past like 2 years since he's got there. He's really changed the roster around completely 180, and I mean he's not the type of guy to get fleeced. He's the type of guy to do the fleecing. So I just can't see them getting more than a first round pick. But like you said, that the leverage that they have is not much. He's getting old. Yeah, he's coming off of 2 MVP seasons, but he did have a down year last year. He's owed $60 million that you guys are just going to eat up and not get anything for.
Exactly. You don't do that in that league.
I mean, if you guys want to do that, go ahead. And you guys want to wait till after the draft to make this trade, that's fine. We'll use our 13th pick and our 2 second round picks gladly. We'll gladly do it. So I mean, if you want to. And then if they want to make a trade after, it's like, what? Okay, you want next year's picks? Like, okay.
He's already said he wants to go there, so I'm not sure what they're doing.
What if you're kind of like the Tyreek Hill situation where he wanted to come to Miami, they made it happen for him. It's like, this is Aaron Rodgers. This dude is giving you guys everything and more. So it's like, what are you guys doing?
That's another big trade though. It's another big trade in Miami though. We got Jalen Ramsey.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's huge for that defense. That defense was not all that great last year, but they definitely filled some holes. They were banged up, definitely hurt. The whole Byron Jones situation was very, very weird.
That is so
you want to talk
crazy.
About that? Like,
it's so sad. I think like because
you probably know more about it. Go ahead and speak on it.
I mean, he was just saying, like, I don't know much about in terms of I can't speak to him not playing last year. I can't speak to the coverage of his injury and things like that. But what I could speak to is him coming out and saying, like, I don't don't take the drugs that they give you. Don't take the medication. Don't, play on like when you're hurt, and don't take care of yourself first. Take care of your health first. And that's kind of the theme that we've been talking about throughout this episode, is that the players sometimes they need to take business into their own hands, because these teams will pressure you and this is across sports, like that passion of the game, that love of the game. And again, in a sport with the NFL, it's very passionate and very emotional. You see a lot of these players get, pressured and kind of go into it because I guess your body, your adrenaline's pumping, you're already in the game, blah, 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 and you just kind of want to do it. But you see a situation where Byron Jones actually tweeted out and said, yo, like, I can't walk, I can't really jump like that. And this is a dude who like at the combine had one of like the longest broad jumps. Like he cleared, I want to say like 2 cars or something. Like that was a tweet that he quote tweeted when he was coming out and saying like, be careful about your injuries and don't just play because, just to play a game like a week 12 game against this so-and-so, because it affects your health long term. And in a game that is so volatile, so violent, I think it's really important that, we see so many of these players come out and be like, hey dude, like, I can't walk, I can barely move my finger. These are like things after football. And of course we don't care. And the way that the media works is there's not a lot of journalism and I staunchly critique the whole sports talk show debate thing, because it's totally gotten rid of the core of journalism within the sport. And that's something that you see it's affecting how we see the sport. It's affecting our consumption of the sport, because now the players, like we talked about the meaningless game thing, the players don't care, because if you make everything about winning a Super Bowl or winning a ring, winning a championship, you take the fun out of the game. You take the fun, like you see like ticket sales go down and things like that go down because people think of it as a meaningless game. Players don't play in games because there's like okay, you guys don't like this is meaningless to you, but now I have to play every game. That's meaningless. I have to put my health on the line for what? And that's when I don't know. I just think like the coverage of the sport of sports in general is so it's so much about money and promotion, and you're literally it's totally lacking like any type of like journalism or critique of anything. You have these debates about like you have these GOAT debates or like all the time with like, especially, and this is something with LeBron.
Dude, it feels like in the NBA that's the only conversation that people can have now. That's there. Nobody wants to talk about nothing else. Who's the best? LeBron Jordan.
Yeah, it's not about like you're not talking about having fun like the All-Star game, things like that. Like and I'm telling you something. The thing with the LeBron industrial complex, that shit gets people paid, man. Skip Bayless would not have the career that he has if he was not a generational LeBron hater. That's his whole. That's how he gets money. He has $10 million from Fox because he hates LeBron. That's his whole bag. It's just content. It's like there's the stuff that it's so stupid. It lacks any type of analysis of the game, of the sport, and it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter because it's like LeBron missed a free throw at the end of a game in December. Let me tell you why like Michael Jordan's better than him. Like it's so like it's just disgusting. It's honestly not even it's not fun to watch. It's not entertaining. And I get that, a lot of these sports companies, they're not going to talk about the business of the sport. They're not going to talk about the labor disputes. They're not going to talk about how the NFL owners are colluding in any way that gives the players any leverage or power or understanding, because they all have TV deals and they all have the promotions and they don't need the fans anymore because they have multi-billion-dollar TV deals. We were talking about it earlier. This sport promotes you just going out there in this gladiator sport of like pride and hoorah and all this stuff. I think it's something, and we see a lot of players have talked about this. Calvin Johnson talked about how he got drugged up. We just paraded Patrick Mahomes for taking shots mid-game and coming back. We just called him a hero for doing that shit.
He took a horse tranquilizer to the ankle at halftime.
And here's Byron Jones being like, "Don't do that. My ankle, I can't jump. I can't move. Please stop promoting this." And you see so many other players like Calvin Johnson was like, "Hey man, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to take drugs like they're candy. I'm done. I'm just not doing it." And he retired. And even you see a lot of other players like due to health concerns, they're just like, I'm not doing it. I'm not playing. I'm not like Andrew Luck, for example, like these early retirees. And I think that's something as the NFL kind of goes on.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like your health comes first, though. You know that's something
100%.
that.
And I think that's any sport.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's so crazy, like seeing players kind of retire early and all this stuff. But again, like you take power in your own hands, man. That's what it is at the end of the day. Speaking of Miami, though, I'm not sure. Did you guys watch the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah.
I watched. Yeah, I was able to watch mainly the last couple games, like the semifinal games and stuff. The one for Mexico, Japan was insane.
Damn.
Yeah.
They
I'm
came
not
back.
even big into baseball, but those were some good games.
Literally, bro. I'm not even a
Same
fan.
here.
I'm not a fan. I've never seriously watched baseball in my life. And those games were just so great, so fun to watch. And then it's so funny because we were talking earlier about this idea of, meaningless games. This tournament was technically meaningless. They're not getting paid that much money, but it's about the passion of the sport, about the passion of the game. That's why we watch the game. That's why like winning matters. That's why like that's what it's founded in, is this idea of like, oh, we're playing like this game that so many of us are fans of, that are entertained by it because we played it when we were young. We played these games when we were young. And me, like I never really played baseball, but it's so exhilarating, like watching like a pitch count, like a 2-1 pitch, like you got runners on base, like this whole like the strategic nature of it. And again, in a meaningless game, the stadium was electric. I went to the Nicaragua apartheid state game, and it was insane. And
Was the entire tournament in Miami?
No.
Some of it was in Japan.
Yeah, the beginning. Okay. I want to say the beginning of it wasn't in the beginning of it was in different locations, but there were a lot of games in Miami, and I think like it was a great just because a lot of the countries had it was South American countries or Central American, Caribbean countries, and it was a great, just like very cultural, very like fun to go to, just a great event for so many people to go. And then you go to Little Havana, you go to the stadium, and it was a good time. And you don't really hear a lot about that because the Marlins suck, and the Marlins built a stadium where they took taxpayer dollars that didn't really want the stadium, and there's a lot of corruption involved in that, business involved. These games were the best use of that stadium I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I've ever seen in my life.
I also think, I mean, and this is like in any sport, any sport, basketball, soccer, baseball. Yes, they quote unquote are meaningless games, but at the same time, like when you're representing, like when you're playing for a team that pays you, like your club is one thing, but when you're representing your country, is like it's a completely different feeling.
Exactly.
For a player,
exactly.
You do
100%.
kind of do
it's
have
for fun.
Something. Yeah,
I mean, even for a person who watches, it's like, neither of us, me, Seb, Sonny, are not baseball people. We don't watch baseball. We never like really played baseball growing up like that. I played Little League as a kid, but I mean, I never had real interest in baseball. But once this thing came around, it was like, dude, I was watching all 9 innings of this.
Dude, the product is better. I think we could all agree that the product is better when the players are having fun. When their players are enjoying the experience, when they're having a good time, it makes the game more fun. And I think that's something you see like across kind of, because technically the World Cup games are meaningless. We've all made the World Cup what it is. It went to this grand finale, and it is the biggest tournament in the world, bar none. There's no professional sports tournament in terms of in the leagues or anything that is as big as the World Cup is. Again, what's the World Cup? It's just players playing for their country, playing the sport from people from their country. It's something that's so passionate and so big, and I think like having this conversation about the World Baseball Classic is something where baseball could learn. The MLB could learn.
People.
Yeah, but another event in Miami is the new UFC fight. I want to say a couple weeks with
Adesanya and Pereira.
Yeah,
Adesanya and Pereira.
Oh, That's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be crazy.
And then,
it's the only guy. It's like his kryptonite.
And I mean the whole card, man. You have Gilbert Burns and Masvidal as well as the co-main.
So what do you guys think? What do you guys think?
Holland is
predictions?
also fighting. You even have Raul Rosas, the think he's like the 18-year-old. I think he is, or something.
Oh yeah,
like that.
he's like the first one on the main fight. Yeah, that kid's
That's
18 years
crazy.
old. Yeah,
18 years
yeah.
old. He's having.
18.
Is this his second or third fight in the UFC? I think
Well, he's
it's-
7-0 professional record. I think it's his
right, but he made his
second-
UFC
I think it's his second or
debut
third.
like
Second or
only a
third.
couple fights ago. But he's dominating everybody. It's crazy. He's 18 years old. He's a beast.
Grown men. Grown men.
He'll be taking on Christian Rodriguez, who's 8-1. So
This
definitely probably
kid's
his
a baby
hardest
still.
fight so far. Yeah, and then Masvidal against Burns. And
Who do you think wins
obviously,
that?
I like Masvidal, but I think Burns is gonna give him some hands because I mean bigger,
Yeah.
I guess. But I like Masvidal, but
I
What about-
just
what
think
about
it's
the-
too. I think it's too late for Masvidal. He's past it.
What about the championship?
Is he? I think he gets his get back because I've never seen him this quiet in between a fight.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also true.
I've never
Yeah.
seen him this quiet in between a fight. He's usually loud mouthing and talking his ass off, which respectfully he can do because he's that good. But
Yeah.
you know, he's not doing that this time. You can
he
tell
also-
he's taking it
He's locked
extremely
in.
serious. It's like
Yeah, he
this
also
guy can't beat
respects
him
Pereira.
again. I mean, if he
Yeah.
does, it's like what?
he also has respect for Pereira at least.
Yeah. He has to at this point.
Yeah, so I mean,
So
I
what do
know
you guys think about? I know like that's the main event of that card, but with that Gilbert Burns and Masvidal fight, a lot of people are saying that Colby doesn't deserve the title shot, and he's out here saying that hell yeah I do. So what do you guys think about that situation with Colby and I think Leon Edwards?
Yeah,
and-
Leon Edwards. I mean, I think it's rightfully so. Colby hasn't fought in
in a year.
like a year or so, and I mean,
He's not
I guess
active.
I guess he should have at least a contending fight where he, fights the second or third ranked in the class, and then the winner obviously would have the championship shot. I don't think it should just be a gimme for him or anybody. I mean, especially because of what Leon did say, where he was right when it was him. He wasn't given a title shot right away, and he had to work for it. So I mean, I can see why he
Why there's
wouldn't sign the
frustration.
contract. Yeah, or he wouldn't sign the contract if it was presented to him.
Mhm.
And he's the
So-
champion, so it's kind of like that's another I guess an issue.
I
where
think they got to put Colby in. They got to put him in the ring with Hamzat. I think.
Correct. Yeah, me
And
too.
then
I
the
agree.
winner.
I don't
of
think
that
he
can go
wants
ahead and
that,
fight for
though.
the title.
I don't think he
He
does
doesn't
either.
want that, and that's why he's so like openly being like, you don't call the shots, Leon, blah blah blah, because Dana White kind of just stuck Colby in there for whatever
Yeah.
reason. But he obviously
he's a
is
little
gonna
ass
do.
kisser.
Yeah, he's gonna do his best to take that opportunity and make sure that he doesn't fight Hamzat because Hamzat isn't probably gonna beat his ass.
Yeah.
So, and
That
then
is
he'll
a
go fight
fucking
for the title.
man.
But so this seems like it's Colby's only way to get in there. So he's kind of being sneaky about it. But
I
mean,
think
shit,
I
I'd
think
probably
what
do
they
the
should do, is they should do Leon versus the winner of the Masvidal Burns, and then they should give like Bilal if they don't give him a championship fight like against Leon, they should book Bilal versus Colby. And then you have a situation where like you could put that on maybe on the same card, and then you have potential fights set up. I'm not too sure how that would like the logistics of that, but that would make like I don't know. I feel like that would make more sense than just giving Colby a shot a year out of not getting in any fight, and But then the UFC with their contract situations, they're negotiating. That's another entire situation where Dana White controls his whole media apparatus and the entire media apparatus around the UFC, besides a couple MMA journalists like Ariel Helwani, is literally just a bunch of content shithole like the Nelk Boys and things like that to make it like popular and to promote it and not really give any kind of journalistic coverage about sport. And I think that's something that you see with like the Francis Ngannou situation, because the thing with Ngannou is like, like they're like, oh, he's scared, he's running away. It's like he's not getting paid. If you're not paying the man, then why would he? And then the thing with the UFC is they don't have a union, so there's no transparency on the contracts. There's no type of like, because what happened was I want to say that Dana White said that he offered him the largest like heavyweight contract like ever, but Francis has no access to other contracts, so he's not able to confirm that or not. You know, like there's no transparency to where like Francis is like, oh, like that's true or not. And then the thing with the healthcare for all fighters, like I think Francis is a great champion. I think he was a great fighter. I think the UFC is sorely missing him. I mean, you could promote John Jones all you want. You could do this shit all you want. The mega fight is John Jones versus Francis Ngannou. And I mean, I know that Dana said he doesn't want him back. I know Francis said that he's moving on. But I just hope that there's some way that they could kind of figure it out. And then I hope the man gets paid. I hope he gets his money.
Yeah. Even some sort of third-party thing would be cool, but obviously they wouldn't let John Jones do that. But, I mean, him stepping into the heavyweight division, beating Cyril Gane in, like, 30 seconds, this dude's the pound-for-pound best fighter. We got to, like, figure out something because, I mean, his next fight is going to be Stipe Miocic, and, you know, Stipe's on the downcline. It's going to be a fight.
Stipe's been inactive, too.
Stipe's been a little inactive, and he's getting old now. Like, dude, John Jones is back. He's probably in the best shape of his life.
He's probably gonna wreck him too.
He's gonna wreck him. Yeah, he's gonna wreck him. And then what? There's nobody else who's gonna compete in that division. I mean, Cyril Gane is the number one.
Yeah, and he got him in like the first round. I want to say the first 2 minutes.
So, yeah, competition. He's gonna win maybe 2-3 more fights and probably call it quits or some shit. And everyone's just gonna be like, all right, no one's gonna beat him for best of all time. He's clear best of all time. I mean, you can say that already. So
listen, he's a great fighter. He's a phenomenal person in the ring. And I think that when it comes to like John Jones and his legacy or whatever you want to make it, he's a great fighter again. But that's another situation where, you know, Francis Ngannou are like these. There's no real competition for John Jones to be fighting. I mean, he fought DC, he beat DC, he cemented his legacy there. And I think with this, him taking a new challenge and I think the real fight for him is the Ngannou fight. The only problem with that fight is, you know, it's very hard to make that happen logistically because they don't want to pay him and they don't want to give him the things that he wants. He kind of knows his value and his worth.
And Ngannou's not even part of the UFC anymore. I mean, he doesn't want to come back either. So it's like,
because they don't pay them money. They don't pay them money, dude. That's the bottom line. It's like that's one of the worst sports of like player exploitation because you have things like, for example, like and I learned this like so my source or my credit is to Ariel Helwani. They signed like a multi-$100 million deal with crypto.com for the kids. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but like people used to have their own like their own get up, and it would be like their own kind of own thing. Like the fighters could come out, wear whatever they want. Like that was their whole thing. And now like they all have to wear like the same like crypto.com kit, and the multi-$100 million deal, they don't get a cent. They don't get a cent to that deal. They don't get any type of percentage of it of whatever happens. So it's things like this where like, and then I know the whole thing was like, oh, Dana gives them money, like blah 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 blah. But that's not the point. Is they should be paid. Like the thing, my one of the best examples of what I'm saying is probably Justin Gaethje. Like he gives like the fight of the night or the performance of the night. He gives them like I guess 50,000, and he's won 11 of them. So he's for having the most entertaining fight on a card, he got 550,000 total ever. That's like an incentive bonus for people who play the full season or play like 200 snaps or something like that. Right. That's how minute that is, and the value like comparison there is insane. And that's another thing that you don't really have, and you won't see it on ESPN. And then there's so many other things that you could get into in terms of John Jones's out of the cage history and Dana White's history, like slapping his wife. So I mean, and you don't see any coverage of that on ESPN because ESPN has a media deal with UFC, and there's just it's just conflict of interest after conflict of interest and lack again of journalistic integrity. And if there's one thing you guys can take away from this episode is my frustration with the sports media field, the sports media genre.
How badly do you miss how badly do you miss Sports Center when it was like like the topics on the side and it would just like come down like that? Like imagine it was like that today and one of the topics were like Dana White, like I miss
analysis, dude. I miss like real like I hate the whole like debate. Like just like not because it doesn't matter. None of this, and then there's no accountability. Like we were talking about earlier. Like you could say like, oh, this person's the number one pound for pound number one. That doesn't matter, and it's a whole shtick. It's a WWE angle. It's a shoot, whatever, and it's all media. It's all hyperbole. Nothing really means anything. I completely understand that. But their sports is very political, and there are very like real conversations that are had within this dome of entertainment that we kind of, we go away and we use it as escapism. And there's so many things that we neglect because we're like, oh, this is just a product of what we're consuming. The way that sports media is set up right now with no real sense of journalistic integrity or journalism is how you get situations like Deshaun Watson and we just brush it under the rug. It's how you get situations like Dana White. It's how you get stadiums built in lower income communities, and then the community doesn't see any of the wealth that stadium or that team or that the revenue that they produce that they pay for with their tax dollars. They don't see any of that revenue themselves. You can say that they provide jobs, but how much of them are reliant on that? That you wouldn't be able to have what you have without the tax dollars or anything like that. Why do regular working class people, low income, regular income, why do they have to subsidize your product? And then when your product becomes very good and a high level, you raise the ticket prices so they can't even see the product. Right. You know what I'm saying? And that's just one example. That's another example of this. And then you have conversations like the Ime Udoka one. And I know like on Twitter, like we love memeing and we love like the whole like interaction of, oh, it's just social media, we're just gonna make a joke or whatever. But there's certain situations where you need to have a real conversation. You need to address real problems. It's something that's much bigger than just like, oh, like a coach getting fired for harassing his coworker. It's a conversation that needs to be had in a country that is very rapidly deteriorating. And so I think it's very important that, when you look at the sports media field and you look at these conversations, like you have to kind of bring journalism back, because you also see this stuff happen like in regular news, right? And the detriment and the after effects of that is a lot more severe than it is in sports. In sports, you can say like, oh, LeBron's not the GOAT, and then you can move on with your day or whatever, because it's so objectively false. And just for the record, I think LeBron is the best basketball player of all time. With that being said, though, True. I think like that's fine. I can think that, you can think that. There's no real life consequence of me and you thinking that. But when this kind of sentiment and this idea of just promoting things and not having any type of like, okay, well, what's going on? Like what's the business looking like the journalism aspect of it, right? When that's kind of neglected and when that's taken out of it, you don't really have any substantive or meaningful conversations.
It's like they don't, whether it doesn't matter what the situation is, it's just not being attacked from all angles anymore. It's just like, all right, what narrative do we want to push out?
And that narrative hinders the product. You know? Because the players talk about all, dude, like the thing with that is, and this is probably what we could end off with, is when the players don't like playing the game, when the players don't like talking to the media, when they don't like engaging in any of this stuff, then you're gonna ultimately get a worser product, right? Like no one really like what I could say is when the Warriors won, right? When winning a championship is so much more than like proving the haters wrong. And I don't know if you guys remember, but last year, like that's all they did was like, oh, like we beat the Grizzlies, or like who's talking now or whatever. It's like, bro, celebrate, like have a like. And that's something you don't see in others, like especially in Europe, in European sports. Like they celebrate like the moment. They celebrate being happy. They celebrate like what's actively going on in front of them. They don't celebrate like, oh, I proved these people wrong and I proved this person wrong. Like imagine winning the World Cup and France's and like Mbappe or Messi, my bad. And Messi's on the stage and he's like, yeah, we proved the French people wrong, and like. That sounds so idiotic.
It's not about the actual accomplishment.
It's not about the moment.
It's about one-upping each other.
Exactly, dude.
And just
like
being
for
like, oh, okay, we're better than this. It's like the same thing you can actually say with the whole like, dude, I'm a big Messi fan, so is Seb. Yep. But like, dude, the argument now for every Ronaldo Messi conversation is just like, Messi has a World Cup.
Yeah.
Messi won a World Cup.
Exactly.
So all the substance is kind of taken away from it because of those things, and it's like
and bro, like again, like it's sports, it's something that we consume, it's art, it's whatever. Like everyone is gonna have their own opinion about who they think is it, but there's no end to that conversation. There's no like conclusion that one could come to. Everyone is gonna have their own biases and their own like. There's people who grew up like I understand it in the sense where there's people who grew up watching Michael Jordan, and that was their hero, that was their Superman. That was their like person who, that was their Marvel movie, was Michael Jordan going 6-0 in the finals, So what are you going to tell that person like objectively about this or that? And why does it? That doesn't matter at the end of the day. You know, like that like people are able to do their own thing. It's like critiquing a movie, being like, oh, this book, and that's something that you see across art and across different things, is where people are like, oh, this is the best song, this is the best artist, this is the best thing. And I remember being a kid, and you know, it was like people like that type of artistic difference where like you're not comparing like a rap star to a pop star or to this person or that person. You're just like, okay, this person is like, I like this person's music. I can get behind this person's music, or I can get behind this person's art. And again, it's something that, like, you know, I think this person, I just like what they do. The things that they do, you know, that they inspire by artistic emotion or whatever. And it's different for everyone. So it's there's no end to that debate. So I think like that culture kind of ruins a lot of the coverage in the sport, because then you see it like with the All-Star game, players have said that they're like, what's the point? You guys think the games are meaningless, so why would I play? Why would I put my health on the line? You know, I'm getting paid regardless.
It's a domino effect. Once one person starts thinking like that, everyone's like, okay, I see where you're coming from, so I'm not going to try. So, yeah.
And the sports leagues do it to promote the product, because at the end of the day, it's just about consuming the product. It's not about like caring about like, you know, the integrity of the game or anything. So, you know, it's all just a lot.
Yeah.
But we could end it on that though.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching.